Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria, and this is my husband, Ananta. And we have with us this morning also Tom and Sharon Taylor, who will be joining us for the Festival of Light. I'd especially like to welcome those of you who are here as guests. Excuse me for the noise. Those of you who are here as guests through the expanding light. And for everyone, and those who are viewing online, thank you for being here. Our Sunday services are a collective effort, and never ever underestimate what you yourself give to the service by simply being here. I'd like to read from Rays of the One Light by Swami Kriyananda, and this week's reading is Reason versus Intuition. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Jesus, when addressing his critics, appealed to reason and common sense. In the training of the disciples, however, he, like all great masters, encouraged in them the development of a higher faculty, soul intuition. For it is only by intuition that spiritual perceptions are achieved. In chapter 16 of the Gospel of St. Matthew, we find Jesus drawing on the intuition of his disciples by asking them who they thought he was in reality. They immediately understood that what he wanted from them was a subtle answer, not some obvious reply based on his nationality, sex, and the like. Peter it was, at last, who understood and answered the question on its intended level, the spiritual. "Thou art the Christ," he said, "the Son of the living God." And Jesus turned to him, saying, "Blessed art thou, Simon, son of Jonah, for not by human nature was the truth revealed to thee, but by my heavenly Father. And I tell thee this also, thou art Peter, which is to say, a rock, and upon this rock will I build my church, and never will the powers of darkness overwhelm it." Jesus was pleased with his disciple for relating to the question on its deeper level. Reason could not have given Peter that answer. The answer came through the faculty of soul intuition and proved him thereby to be a spiritually advanced disciple. It was his intuitive perception, that insight which cannot be shaken by tempests of reasonable doubt, that Jesus praised in referring to him as a rock. The church he referred to next was the edifice of cosmic consciousness. Any outer church institution would have to depend, as in fact the Christian churches have always done, on the level of understanding of its individual leaders and members. Peter's intuitive perceptions could never have been passed on to an outward succession of prelates. Clarity comes by direct soul perception. Confusion results from excessive dependence on reason as the guide to understanding. As the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita states, when your intellect, at present confused by the diversity of teaching in the scriptures, becomes steadfast in the ecstasy of deep meditation, then you will achieve final union with God. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Well, I would also like to welcome you all and thank you for coming today. This line of division between reason and intuition does not dispel the need for reason. I think that would be unreasonable. But the need for intuition is, in fact, a cornerstone of the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. He called it the soul's power to know God. And the spectrum of divine experience is a constant in this universe. But it exists beyond the spectrum of the senses. And reason essentially, as it says in the reading, works from the observations and the measurements and the touch of the physical universe. But God doesn't have a weight or a dimension, and our own spirits within our own hearts don't have a physical, well, they have a physical pumping mechanism, but it's not the spiritual heart. And so it's not sufficient to come to the realization of the self. And so Master always emphasized we need to use our soul power and not rely only on our mind, but we should enlist the help of our mind. I always think of reason as a unprincipled law firm available for hire, and will argue vehemently for whoever's paying them to argue for that side of the argument, and then there it is with you. So you're doing the wrong thing, you feel you're doing the wrong thing, and your mind jumps in and says, no, this will really benefit everyone. Ananda will be pleased, and everything will work, we'll make lots of money, and on and on and on. And then you intuitively know that it wasn't right. And we need to rely on that more and more. I'll tell you a story from a long time ago. When we were building what is now Hrudayavasi and Ramu's house, it was going to be Jyotish's house as soon as we built it. But we were building it, this is right after the 1976 fire, and this was the first standalone dome that we were going to build, and we had planned to build a cluster of them. They're up there now in Ranikat. But we were building the first one, and we were trying to locate the 6 or 8 points of that dome. And we had a transit and a plumb bob. Nowadays we have laser levels and all sorts of really cool toys that are much easier to build with. But in those days we had one community transit that we had to borrow from Grant and a plumb bob, and that was it. So we were up there on the hill, and the hill is going down both ways, and we couldn't get these points to go. We couldn't get them dropped. We kept calculating it and running our equations and our geometry and measuring and our chords and our tangents and cotangents, and we were really working hard mentally. But we weren't getting it done. We kept coming off by a few inches. And at a certain point, Jyotish was the foreman. There's about 8 of us there. And Jyotish, it was almost noon, and Jyotish said, okay, let's just stop here. There was a level of frustration. There was a level of vexation. There was a certain amount of, what is wrong here? We were measuring around the outside of the dome, and we weren't getting it. So Jyotish just said, okay, let's just stop. We're not getting it. Basically what he was saying was the tone's wrong. Let's meditate for half an hour, which we always did at noon anyway, and then we'll have lunch. And after lunch, we'll come back at this. And we said, yeah, let's do it. And it was funny because the first time Jyotish was the foreman. It was the first time I ever saw Jyotish sort of extend his aura around the project. And he just said, okay, stop. And we all stopped. So they all sat down in the dirt and meditated for half an hour. Jyotish ends the meditation. He just goes, Om, Om, Om. And right then, 3 guys yell out in unison, I got it! We all looked at each other, and everyone just started laughing. But we all knew what was happening. And of course, all 3 guys came up with the same solution, which was the spider. The spider template was what we needed. We needed to go from the center of the dome in equal rays and have a movable template that found the points equal to the places. So we made the spider, And everything went perfectly from then on. But it was so cute because you saw as Jyotish, they weren't really meditating on the problem. They were putting their mind into Divine Mother's hands, just giving them the job, giving them the dome, giving them the project, let go, don't think, don't multiply, don't divide. And there it was. And of course, the beauty of it was that all three of them, three guys, came up with the same solution. And it was the same solution in all three cases. And the solution was to get into the center of the dome, not to measure it around the outside constantly through our reason. Use our intuition and get in there. So we did, and the job went smoothly from there on. Master, in talking about his experience of cosmic consciousness, said, when he had the experience of samadhi, he said, I cognized the Imperium to be a point, centered in a point of intuitive perception within myself. Right in the center is our intuition. And every one of us is a soul. Every one of us has that connection with the divine. But unless we get used to exercising our intuition and relying on our intuition and enlisting our reason as a support for our intuition, we become more and more involved in the realm of Maya, in the realm of dimension, in the realm of separation, that we're separate from God, that God's in heaven, we're on earth. God's somewhere else. God's not here. The center of the highest heaven, the Empyrean, is not here within our own heart. It's somewhere out there. It's somewhere we're going. It's in the Himalayas. But our intuition tells us, and we know, that the center is right here. And that is how we see the Spirit flowing through all human endeavor. The really great perfected people in any discipline are those who have attuned themselves to that intuition, that sense of the divine, and just that knowing that this is the right thing. And you see it in everything. You see it in movies and movie makers. You see it in the kids' play. You see it, we had our schools did plays this week. And you see in the children and in the directors and in the script written by Nabha, Joan of Arc, you see this intuitive sense, this beautiful divine consciousness flowing through whatever medium. Any greatness in any field is an attunement, an intuitive attunement. And you see this in business people. There's certain intuitive sense that business people have. Our friend now in heaven, Vasudeva, had an intuitive sense about business that used to blow me away. I couldn't believe it. I'd talk to him and he'd say, well, of course we'd do this. And I'd go, I never thought of that. It never crossed my mind that we would do that. Of course we would do that. But he had attuned to that business sense for Master, for the divine, and he just knew. And you know, great doctors, great dancers, great business people, great chefs, you work with them and they just have a sense. And what it is, really, is the Divine Mother whispering through constantly. She's always whispering. We're just not listening that much. But just listening to that vibration. Master, of course, ran into this many times in his life. One of my favorite stories is he ran into a fundamentalist, and the fundamentalist told Master, every word, the Bible is precisely true. And Master said, not all of it's true. It could be figuratively true. He said, no, Yogananda, everything is written in the Bible is precisely true. And Yogananda said, what about the part where the snake talks to Adam and Eve? And the minister said, in those days, snakes could talk. Reason. It's for hire. It's defend this. I must defend this at all costs. It doesn't make any sense. Master said, I bow to the colossal temple of ignorance that I find before me. And I'm sure he said it with respect, but there is a point at which reason just does not have a place. But intuition does have a place. So how do we develop this intuition and refine it? Well, one of the techniques that Master said is meditate on the Om vibration, because the Om is the Divine Mother permeating this creation. Intuition is the bridge by which we connect with the Divine Mother beyond the creation and in the creation. And by listening to Om, by attuning to that spectrum of the broadband, of the width of vibration, tuning to that constant vibration of the Divine Mother, you find that you become sensitive to it. We see this in Kriyananda all the time. His intuition, it makes us laugh, it stuns us. It's just amazing the things that he says to us and does to us. And, it's just because he's so attuned to Divine Mother, that's the whole focus of this incarnation. All he wants to do is serve Master, tune into it, and spread Master's work. We one time in Sacramento rented this hall it was a funeral home near where the community is. And we were thinking, this would be a nice place for Swami to give the talk. It's big enough. And we walked into the room, and Swami's walking up to give the talk, and he leans over to me, he goes, "This place feels like ours." I'm like, huh? About 4 years later, we bought the place after much mental reasoning and many reports and all the things that you do to buy a business. You have to do a building report and title search, and there's all sorts of stuff, and fundraise and all this stuff. But so easily, this place feels like ours. Oh, okay. Just say charge it, I mean, it's just so simple. I think one of the differences between reason and intuition too is reason is boring, Reason is dull and dry and just chokes you eventually. And intuition is flowing and fluid and alive and fun. I think that's the main thing, is the spiritual path should be fun. Jesus is talking to these disciples, and they're talking about, people say you're Elijah come again. Sometimes people say you're Jeremiah. And he turns to Peter and he says, "Who do you say I am?" And he says, "I say that you're the Son of God. That's who you are." And Jesus was like, "Yeah, that's it. This is the way it is. It's so simple. We all know it. We all know, we can feel. It's a feeling in our hearts that intuition gives." And that's where Swami has said, another shocker, he said, "I never do anything without an inner feeling." Think about that. You can take that too far. I mean, which donut and, take it easy. But generally, what is the feeling? And that's what, and Swami said, this place feels like ours. I feel that you'd do well doing this. Just that intuitive feeling. He's just listening to Divine Mother. What shall we do? And so many situations in our community, it's been Swamiji's intuition that has guided us to buy this land when Dr. Hoffman had it, to buy this farm. Swamiji went, I don't know if you've probably all heard this story, but when Swamiji, the farm came up for sale, Swamiji went to a board in Sacramento, to a realtor's thing, and put little tacks in the parcels. He didn't do a water test and a soil test and a growth test. He'd doom, good. And years later we realized, those are the perfect parcels, and because intuition is so flowing and fluid. So tuning into Om is a wonderful thing. Another thing too is to use your introspection. And when you have a feeling about something, review and see, did I foresee this? Did I feel this? Did I feel that this was a bad thing to say or a wrong thing to say at this time? Did I have a feeling this wasn't a good business deal? Did I have a feeling about this contractor? Did I have a feeling about this direction? Go back at the end of the day and try to identify that feeling within your heart, the calm and yet expansive feeling of intuition, and see, gosh, I had a feeling this wasn't going to work very well. And then sort of put it in your aura that, okay, well, next time you have that feeling, don't do it. And next time you have that feeling, act on it, even if it's, Yogananda, when he went to Mount Washington, he just said, I have a feeling this place feels like ours. He used that same phrase that Kriyananda used. Of course, we all know he'd had a vision of the Mount Washington from India years before. But anyway, you get the point, is that we have this feeling Divine Mother's guiding us. She's always guiding us and always receptive to it, and trying to help us if we can be receptive to her vibration and get used to that feeling. I think that's one thing that hasn't changed in Ananda, in all the years since the community started, is the feeling of Ananda. The physical buildings have changed, and our presentations and our clothes and our looks and our age and all sorts of things have changed. But the feeling hasn't changed. The feeling hasn't changed probably from the first day Swami walked on this land. Because remember that story too. When he went there with the Bald Mountain Association, he just said, I really feel drawn to this part, the meditation retreat. And each of the other guys, Gary Snyder and Roshi Baker, were drawn to a different part. They were all drawn to a quadrant. Swami was drawn to the meditation retreat because he's going by that feeling of Divine Mother. Get used to that feeling, introspect, measure that feeling, become a part of it. I remember once I had this in Ananda, Sacramento. We have I would say a typical apartment complex for that suburb of Sacramento. And it looks about the same. It's nicely taken care of, but the other apartments are nicely taken care of. Anyway, one day I had this subcontractor come. I was going to have him give me a bid on some windows. And he got out of his car, and he just turned to me, and he had this very centered, joyful look on his face. And I go, hi, I'm the manager, and we shook hands, and I'm Mike, the window guy, and hi. He goes, and he stood up in his car, and he was just looking around. He said, what goes on here? And I thought about it later. There's no statues, or there's no picture of Master, or it doesn't say Yogananda or anything. It just says Ananda Community. But he could feel it. It was overwhelming him. He just said, I've never felt this much peace in all my life. And he was in the parking lot. I mean, he wasn't in the temple. He was just standing there in the parking lot. So I explained to him, and his head was sort of spinning, and it took him a while to sort of, and I didn't want his head to leave that place. I wanted to stay in that place. It was really cool because intuitively he could feel there was a special vibration here. There was no outward indication. There was just a vibration that was different than all the other places. That is the vibration that we need to attune to, and that's the vibration that we're all trying to express. That's the vibration that Jyotish could feel was beginning to diminish in our project. And so let's stop and meditate. I can't guarantee that if you meditate for half an hour, everyone will just go, I got it, and have solved all the problems of your business and your life. But it's worth a try. So if we can just feel that and feel as Christ did, that this is the intuition. This is what we're here for. We're here for self-realization. We're here for that intuition to become our daily waking consciousness. Master would be constantly in that state of communion with Divine Mother. He would see the light behind the form at all times. That's where we're headed, and our intuition brings us there. And with practice of Om, with calmness, with a sense of inner peace and sensitive awareness to that center, that intuition becomes what's missing at any point where we begin to diminish it. And we need to get back to it quickly. Maybe you just have to close your eyes. Maybe you just take a deep breath. But get back into that center so that your intuition can just guide you, so that it becomes more and more comfortable. We find as years go on that if we're ever not in the vibration, our intuition is missing, and we long for it so much, so we immediately, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm getting out of my center. I'm getting away. Get back as quickly as possible. And soon, very soon, with practice, with meditation, with taking that meditative intuition into your daily activity and holding it in your own center amidst the crash of breaking worlds, you become acclimated to always being in that. That's the space we find Kriyananda in all the time, just intuitively guided. Why did he go to Los Angeles? He felt intuitively it was time. Why did he come back? He felt intuitively it was time. He just goes by what does Divine Mother tell him to do. Each of us needs to do that too, to follow that. And hopefully, like Peter, we'll realize and recognize the Christ, but also we'll recognize something else. That as Christ is the Son of God, so is each of us. And that is the intuition that we need to remember. We, like Jesus and the masters, are children of God. Nothing more, nothing less. Live in that intuition always. I'd like to read from Whispers from Eternity, Master's Prayer. Demand for the rising of the aurora of intuition. Infinite Spirit, thy presence is hidden equally behind the warm rays of the sun and the cool light of the moon. Those lights, though welcome and wonderful, reveal only Mother Nature's splendor in matter. They reveal not thee. To me, they are therefore darkness. Thy all-revealing, majestic, and supreme light shines not on, but from within, the center of everything, therefore creating no shadows. Shadows in this world reduce light itself to non-light. In theory, I have known this. Now, Lord, take all darkness away from me. Wherever I sit with eyes shut, enclosed in my own darkness, cause to blaze upon me in glory the aurora of intuition, that suffused in its light I may gaze raptly on thee with worshiping eyes.